Roger, go for deploy.
All righty, guys. So, welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. Today, what we have for you, we've got Adee, formerly Zucker, now Adee Cazayoux. So, we had Mike Cazayoux on the show from Brute Strength about, 3 months ago, episode 27, if I'm not wrong. So, Adee's Mike's now wife, and Adee was she's a top 3 level weightlifter in Canada in the national championships. She's podiumed in the national championships before. She's also dealt with body weight issues as a kid. She was 200 pounds as a youngster, and now she has a company called Working Against Gravity, which provides services for nutrition and for weight loss and health to people all around the world. She now has 2,200 people on her books. Started with 5 people, and then shortly after she got 80 people, she's grown it to 2,200 people. And we just had a really good chat about a lot of fitness, nutrition, and it ended up going a lot into the mindset side of things. Wouldn't you agree, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree, because that is the truth.
Nah, you're right. So yeah, you guys are going to like the show. Today's show is brought to you by True Pride. True Pride are a wealth creation service who look at working with ambitious individuals who are looking to worry less, take control, and get ahead in life. So they have all different levels of wealth creation services for you guys. Head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF and book a call. If you decide to go ahead with the guys at True Pride, they'll waive the $297 joining fee if you book through our link. We're also brought to you by Carve. Carve is a company that specialises in anything digital, from building apps, designing logo, automating your business, down to setting up your next event. Carve's where I get my assistance. Carve's where I get my life back. Carve's where I've been able to upscale the business. Head to www.carve.ph/ADVF to get 10 hours for free. And also, we are brought to you by Adventure Fit Travel. Make sure you go to www.adventurefittravel, guys, to see what we have planned, we have coming up. All of our podcasts are on there. All of our epic blogs that we've got from our team of bloggers are on there. All of our trips. We've got Mexico with Jared Fleming coming up. We've got Carl Paoli in Bali. We'll do Peru and the Inca Trail next year. That'll be released sooner rather than later. CrossFit Games next year. Check it all out. And here's the show. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. We are here with Adee, formerly Zucker, now Adee Cazayoux. Adee has joined us on the show to talk all things working against gravity, all things a little bit of weightlifting, and whatever we come to. I've got Tommy on my left as usual.
Good morning. And
before we throw to Adee, we will, as usual, go to Tommy's tribute.
Alrighty. Well, I'm not sure if you know Adee, but I sang a tribute of She Hates Me by a Puddle of Mud to Mike. And I thought I'd do the exact same thing to you, except change up the words.
Okay, perfect.
He doesn't know that many songs.
I don't know any songs, basically. Put it that way, yeah. All right. Oh, just quickly, it's called I Also Hope You Love Us. There's a girl, she's been with Mike. We had him on the show, got a listener spike. Now I want to say good day to you, Miss Adee Sukiera too, who started a move working against gravity. In other news, I've got a tooth cavity. She's got a 6-pack, it's the dream. And if you want to get a little more lean, listen to the show. Listen to the show. She'll tell you how to grow. When Bill told me you were on the show, I fell off my chair and into a daze. But now I get to serenade you. Hopefully you'll listen for days and tell me how to get a 6-pack. Yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you.
You take it so seriously.
I know. I get so into it.
Sorry, Adee. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Beautiful.
Cool. Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Adee, your bit of your upbringing, your background, who you are?
I am, my name's Adee. Recently, I got married this past August. So my last name changed from Zucker to Cazayoux. I married Michael Cazayoux, who was on the podcast before.
Was?
And I'm originally from Canada, from Toronto, so like mid-eastern Canada. And I have moved to the United States, and I live now in just south of Austin, Texas. My
Nice.
background, I've played probably every single sport you can think of. Most recently, I was a competitive Olympic weightlifter, and I started a company called Working Against Gravity, and that's what brings me here today.
Beautiful. So before we go any further, you and Mike eloped, and I knew that had something to do with getting married, but I wasn't sure what it was. What's the difference between eloping and getting married?
I mean, I would have to look up the actual definitions, but from my understanding, we just like went to the courthouse and got married. Like we didn't have a wedding reception.
yes.
We didn't have, like we just like decided Monday that we were going to get married on Thursday. So we got we got our marriage license and then just went for it.
Why do I just get I get this mental image of when someone elopes, I'm thinking that someone's like galloping along in a paddock. Do you get the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
So
I think
Michael
animals
and I went and ran in
elope
a paddock. Oh, congratulations.
So Adee, why did you decide to do that rather than the textbook kind of big fancy wedding, or is that in the future, or what was the reasoning?
I mean, we're not really the big fancy wedding type. With the reasoning behind eloping, we wanted to get married on our own terms, and as well, I wanted to remain in the United States, so it's a lot easier if we're married. That is a factor for sure, and we just didn't want all of the fuss that comes with the wedding. We will have a ceremony for our family. It's just going to be like our closest friends and family in Michael's grandmother's backyard. But that's really just for our family and for the experience of, the white dress and a party. But nothing, we're not really fancy kind of people, so.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's probably more of that going on these days. I think me and Tommy had a discussion the other day about the way that society's, there's a lot more options now and there's a lot more flexibility with things, I think. So you guys, it's a practical terms. I'm sure you guys love each other, and then you're just going to get the family together for a gathering, and then no bells and whistles. Is there going to be a honeymoon? That's the big question.
So this is a good question. So we feel like our life is kind of like a honeymoon, considering we both work very remote. We don't have to we own our own companies, so we can really go on vacation whenever we want. So instead of doing like your typical honeymoon, we're probably going to do some type of active service for maybe 10 to 14 days somewhere within the United States. We were considering going abroad, but I think that there's probably a lot of people that could use our help right here in our own country. So we're probably going to do that instead.
Right.
I like that. That's cool. Yeah. What specifically? What sort of service have you been thinking about?
Well, Michael comes from a substance abuse background after recovering from opiate addiction. So we were considering something along the lines of working with addicts and bringing fitness and nutrition into that. But we have not really finalized that yet.
That's awesome.
That'd be cool.
I've got an end goal once I have time and money on my side with Adventure Fit to work with underprivileged kids and teach them about health and fitness. That's cool. That's cool, Adee. I think that'd be a great way to give back, and you always feel better about yourself, or like there's nothing more rewarding than helping someone else rather than getting anything out of yourself. You can go and sit on a beach somewhere for 7 or 10 days, or you can go and help some people out, and you probably feel a lot better and be. It's really cool. So good stuff. So what about let's go into you said that recently you were a weightlifter. You don't compete in weightlifting anymore. You've gone back into you've gone into business mode. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've kind of became an entrepreneur by accident, and that was while I was trying to be the best weightlifter I could be, trying to qualify for international teams.
Mm-hmm.
And as my business started to take off and it's bigger than I've ever imagined it could possibly be, I've realized my priorities have shifted, and I won a medal at senior nationals this past year. And then once that happened, it kind of like gave me a little bit of permission to not continue competing.
Yeah.
And I also there's not, where I currently live, there's no community for me to be training with. And it's really hard in weightlifting specifically to train, 5 times a week, 3-hour sessions. Like you're training 20 hours a week, and doing that alone without like real motivation is just not in the cards for me anymore. And I'm kind of okay with that.
100%. I'm actually in a similar mindset. I competed in the weightlifting, the Australian Nationals for the first time. I've only been weightlifting for a few years, but I competed in the Nationals, didn't do well, whatever. But the last few weeks I've had a deload and I've been really busy, and I'm kind of like, I love weightlifting. It is my happy place, but I could probably live my life without it pretty happily.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Sometimes things get in the way, I suppose, and take over. But with what got you into weightlifting firstly? I was going to ask how the working against gravity started, but what got you into weightlifting? Because it's not, was it through CrossFit, or were you a weightlifter through your younger years, or how did it all start?
How did I start weightlifting? So I was doing CrossFit I believe did it in like 2009. It was right after Mikko Salo won the games. So I think that was in 2009. And I started doing CrossFit at my university gym, just like in the gym. People thought I was crazy. And I hurt my back, and I had to take a full year off of training altogether. So I just swam, and I devoted to my studies, and I didn't really do much training. And then when I wanted to come back, I decided that I was going to do things with really good technique, and I really wanted to build a base of strength. And in my mind at the time, it made the most sense to master Olympic weightlifting, which was the most technical, and then incorporate metabolic conditioning afterwards.
Yep.
And then I just never incorporated the metabolic conditioning.
That's a great system. I like it. That's where you're at in your training, kind of, Tommy, isn't it? You're all metabolic, not all metabolic conditioning, but you're kind of
mostly. You're
starting your first day at a weightlifting club today, and then hopefully no cardio.
Probably
See you later. Adios.
See you later, Kevin. Pull up. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm definitely more pumped to get into the weightlifting side of things now, for sure. Yeah, and I probably just want to keep eating food.
So when you were a weightlifter, Adee, and then you spoke about your business started through a need yourself to. So as a weightlifter, obviously you were obviously, is it true to say you're in a weight class and you were trying to obviously cut down to the next weight class always? And was that where you refined your techniques of nutrition, and then like how did that all start?
Well, the actual way that it all started was I was almost like I was pushing 200 pounds at 16 years old.
Right.
And my mother took me to a nutritionist at the time, and she did something similar to what I do, but she just tracked carbs, proteins, fats, and fruit. She classified fruit differently. It was kind of like a Weight Watchers style, where you would have a certain amount of points for each of the categories, and she had lists of food items that would classify as a point or half a point. And I lost just over 50 pounds doing that.
Wow.
And from 16 to 22, I had maintained that weight loss and continued to delve into nutrition and trying different things, trying paleo, trying keto, it was always a fascination to me. And then when I started weightlifting, I was always a 63 kilo lifter. And in 2014, my coach at the time, I'm like 5'6.5".
Mm-hmm.
So he told me I was much more suited for the 69 kilo class and told me he wouldn't coach me unless I became 69.
Oh, that's tough.
So,
That's tough, yeah.
It's tough for a girl to hear, you know.
Very tough.
I would think the girls would always be trying to push for that lower weight category. Guys want to be big and bulky, you know.
Yeah, that's
girls
right,
don't particularly want to be. That must have been hard to hear.
Yeah, he was a unique style. He was the national Hungarian weightlifting coach. So he was thick accent, never smiled. Like he was just very intimidating coach. But he's a fantastic coach. He's amazing at what he does. It was definitely. I mean, I wasn't totally opposed to it. So I did it for a full year. So I went up to 69 kilos for a full year. I didn't do it in the most strategic fashion, and I just ended up being self-conscious about my body. I've never really dreamed of making the Olympics or breaking national records or anything like that. So I just didn't really see the point if I wasn't feeling confident in my own skin, and I wasn't getting that much stronger.
Yeah.
So I went and trained with Travis Mash, a coach in North Carolina from Mash Elite Performance, and I took it as an opportunity to cut back down while my coach from Toronto wasn't with me. So that's when I started doing macros the way that I do them now. So I was tracking my macros, cutting back to 63. I actually got significantly stronger at the time, and I blogged about it. And that's how Working Against Gravity started.
Right.
That's cool. I like that.
Interesting. So taking it back to when you were 16, what do you think it was, if you don't mind me asking, that got you to you were such a heavy kid, 200 pounds for a young girl.
90, isn't it?
For us,
that's
you know, that's pretty solid. What was looking back on it now with all the experience you have and all the knowledge that you have, what was the catalyst or what let you get to that size?
I think that as I have spent the last year and a half especially since I've met Michael, really delving into like self-awareness and into those kinds of things, like in my earlier life. And I was very I had a lot of shame. I was carrying a lot of shame around not necessarily my eating habits or my body, but I wasn't very good at making friends. I'm what you would consider an anxious extrovert. So yes. I'm very extroverted and I'm very social. And anyone who knows me would be like, oh, Adee's so confident. She always says the right thing, or she's very eloquent, or she's a great businesswoman. But inside, the way that I make that happen is like 10,000 decisions happening at the same time. And I'm very anxious inside, even though it might not seem that way outside. And it was really hard for me to be friends. To make friends. I'm definitely a people pleaser. So I was always trying to be somebody that I wasn't. Like I was trying to be the funny girl, or I was trying to be the athletic girl, or I was trying to be something instead of just allowing people to like me for who I was. And instead of putting myself out there because I was too afraid and insecure about who I was or whether people were going to like me or not, I would just stay home because it was easier. I would stay home.
Is it fair to say that you would change who you were portraying yourself to be around the people that were around you? Is that because myself and Tommy can definitely we kind of call ourselves extroverted introverts or introverted extroverts.
We actually, when you said that you were an anxious extrovert, we both looked at each other and just nodded.
Yeah.
We were like, oh yeah, we're the same.
Yeah, because is that how you felt? You would always try and change yourself a little bit around depending on the surroundings you were in?
Yes, definitely. And I think I'm still that way a little bit. And I think sometimes it's advantageous for me to be that way, and it's a skill. But at the same time, even still, it's easier to like just not do that. Like it's a lot of effort to do that. It's a lot of energy to be that way all the time. Like it's almost like you're on all the time. And it's just easier for me to just stay home and not put myself out there as much as I want to reach out and ask someone to hang out or be social. at the time, it was just way easier for me to just sit at home in my basement with a bunch of junk food and watching TV.
Sure, that sounds good.
That was just easier.
Doesn't sound like a bad time, really. I'm a big movie buff, and I love me a sweet tooth.
And I love junk food. Yeah.
So if you ever need a little anxious recluse to hang out with, Adee, I'm there for you. And Tommy, I reckon we could have a good little Saturday night.
Yeah, I reckon this is probably the way drug addiction starts.
Yeah, well, that's pretty natural. That's how, like I said, I can literally understand a lot of what you said, and I think a lot of people can as well. And well, that's interesting. So, and then what was it that? So it was your mother that started the change, and then obviously you got to the point you're at now. Okay, cool. So what about working with gravity? So when did it? You wrote a blog, and then how did it steamroll from there? Did you start? Was it just people following your blog, or you were dealing with people on a PT basis? What was the next step with working with gravity? Working against gravity.
The blog itself was called workingagainstgravity.com, and people just started emailing me and asking me to help them with their nutrition. And then once I got past 5 people, I figured I would start charging people because it was taking up like a significant amount of my time. And then the real like catalyst for at the beginning, like what the real impact was, I was working with Travis Mash from Mash Elite Performance, and he had an online weightlifting team. And he just asked me if I would offer that nutrition help to his online weightlifting team. And once he had like launched that effort, we got 80 people overnight.
Wow.
And that's like a significant amount. And then from there, it became like I was getting like 3 hours of sleep a night. I wouldn't go to sleep. I really just was like so focused on giving these people the best service I possibly could at the time, which in retrospect, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like how bad we did back then, because we've evolved so much since then. But yeah, we gave 80 people a good enough service for them to tell their friends and their friends and their friends. And now we have 2,200 people on the program.
2,200 people.
That's insane.
Wow. That's crazy. So you guys work with the guys from Barbell Shrug, right? Yourself and Mike. I believe that's how you guys met, yeah?
We don't work with them, but we are part of, they have a mastermind, which is just a group of like-minded entrepreneurs who get together 4 times a year and share business ideas and things that are going on and just learn. And we basically help each other succeed and are just always there for each other. And Mike Bledsoe is a very good friend of mine. And Michael and I met at my first mastermind, which was in San Diego. And so I guess you would say Barbell Shrug, they're like mentors of mine. They were my first mentors.
Yeah, cool. So
that's cool.
So you work with those guys. Did you have any other help along the way to grow the business and scale the business, or were you just a solo entrepreneur? And how did it go from 80 people to 2,200? And what was the timeline? Tell us how that all happened, because that's a really that's huge growth, and you're doing awesome. So
we'll get the notepad out.
Yeah.
I think that one of the major factors of our success is that I actively ask for help all the time. Like, I'm always asking for help. I truly believe that the fastest path to progress is learning from others' mistakes without having to make them yourself. And so I'm constantly being like, how did you do this? Like, I see people doing things that I want to be doing, or I see a company that is already where I want to be in the next phase. So I'll ask them how they're doing those things. And I'd rather choose a path that has already seen success versus just like trial and error, trying things on my own.
Yes.
So I've been doing that since the beginning. Like, I went to Barbell Shrugged, like that mastermind, very fast. And that was, so my first client, I guess, was in September of 2014. So we've been just over 2 years. And, yeah, it started with just me. And then I had 2 guys helping me at the beginning when we got 80 people. And then slowly, when the 3 of us reached, you can only coach so many people. Like, there's only so much time in a day, and we really want to give the best service possible. So you really do reach a capacity of how many clients you can work with at a time. So once we had reached our capacity, but we're still receiving clients, we decided we were going to hire our first coach, and that everything just created systems as we go, and it just really just grew from there, just slowly each day, one day at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
That is awesome.
That's awesome. So what is the program that everyone that's signed up to Working Against Gravity, what do they actually get from you? Or is there different packages? How much of their daily intake of food and their programming, how much of it do you actually do?
So the way that it works is we only sell one thing. This is like a silly story, but I watched the Steve Jobs movie, and
great movie.
He talks about, yeah, it was a great movie. And he talked about Apple, how it's like closed end to end. And he was like so strict on it. Like, we are not opening Mac to like be compatible with other things. And I just like took it pretty seriously when I watched it. So we only offer one thing. Maybe we'll change that in the future, but we are really good at doing one thing. It's one price, and we never discount it. It's just, that is what it is, and we only do that one thing. So when you sign up for the program, you send us answers to a questionnaire that has also evolved over time, and photos of yourself. And from there, you're assigned a coach based on there's a few questions within that questionnaire that would associate you to a particular coach that might have a better affinity to what you're looking for. And then they create the initial program, which is actually like not the magic at all. Like, there's nothing, anyone can give you an initial set of macros. It's just a coach is giving you a certain amount of carbs, proteins, and fats to eat on any given day. Some people are getting the same macros for every day. Some people are getting different macros for days they train, days they don't. It really is totally individual. It's completely prescribed to who you are, what your past relationship was with food, past diets that you used to comply with. It's like really completely based on the individual.
Yep.
And then from there, it's a weekly check-in with your coach. And that's just one formal check-in a week. And that would be you sending in your information from the past 7 days. And that's your body weight, how many macros you were eating each day, a summary of the week with your like mood, energy, struggles you were having, successes you were having, and then your coach will provide for you the strategies to continue to succeed and make any adjustments if necessary. And you can also ask any questions at any time, but it's just one formal check-in a week where there's an adjustment of your intake.
And that's just to keep the client accountable, I'm assuming?
It's to keep the client accountable, but also to maintain progress. So you can't, there's no single set of macros that's going to work for you for the rest of your life, because you might change your method of exercise. You might change your frequency of exercise. You might change your volume. You might be tapering for a meet. You might be competing at the CrossFit Games or whatever it is. Life happens. So things have to be adjusted all the time.
And how long does it take for someone to really get into the motion with it all? Like, you know, they always talk about, you know, for example, when you stop drinking alcohol or when you come off coffee and all this sort of stuff, that there's that almost withdrawal period and you go through sweats and all this sort of stuff. When someone's making such a big change, do you normally see a pattern starting to emerge with how long it takes for them to get into the nutrition, the stuff that you're offering?
It really depends on the kind of person you are. If you're the kind of person who's really organized and patient, it'll be a lot faster for you than somebody who's impatient and is looking for immediate results. I mean, any program that tells you they can give you immediate results is lying, and they're not telling you the truth. So there's nothing worthwhile that comes like that, and it's not going to be sustainable. But we're not necessarily drastically changing people's actual diet. Like, you're making your own food choices. So you could essentially eat the same foods that you've been eating. We're merely providing parameters in which you have to remain. So you can still eat whatever foods it is that you're interested in eating. So there shouldn't be too much of a change because we do take into account the way you were eating previously. So there shouldn't be like too drastic of a change in terms of like the actual things you're eating. We don't believe in complete restriction. We're not going to shame you for eating particular foods. So there shouldn't be too much of that. The biggest adjustment is actually tracking your food, like weighing and measuring every single thing you eat is an adjustment, takes patience. It can be frustrating, especially if you eat out at restaurants all the time, or if you're a very social person and have anxiety like me, then you might feel anxious about, busting out a scale in front of your friends and it might feel weird.
Okay, cool. So I want to ask, because there's obviously a lot of stuff in CrossFit in our world where it's, they talk about the paleo and they talk about the zone diet. And I think one of the, maybe misconception is the wrong word, but one of the things that I feel like has come from the zone diet is that you can essentially zone anything and it takes away any sort of accountability for the quality of the food. Any chance you could sort of open up a bit more on that? So, I'm just imagining if someone came to you and they said, "Oh, look, I eat 4,000 Macca's burgers every day," and you sort of gave them the parameters of which they could hit their macros in that. Would you be having a word to them as well about maybe sort of changing the quality of the food as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That is a huge proponent of our program. I think that it might be a differentiator in terms of what we do versus a number of other people that are doing similar things. We are a huge believer in eating real food. It's part of our mission and our, I was just talking about this recently, but most of the time, like in history, like the people that messed up are the people that took something natural and processed it down and turned it into something it's not. And then that messed people up, whether it was like cocaine or sugar or, that. We believe in eating real food, but
Sure.
at the same time, we believe in enjoying your life. So we believe that 85 to 95% of your diet, or 80 to 95% of your diet, should be coming from whole, nutrient-dense sources, and 10 to 15% of your diet can come from whatever the heck you want. If that's going to keep you sane.
Sugar and cocaine. Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
that justifies my breakfast.
So, Adee, you talked about you've been on many different diets yourself. So, what do you actually follow? Is it paleo? Is it zone? I'd love to hear what you thought of the ketogenic diet. I hear this term flexible dieting, which I don't really know what it means. I assume it's zone, but just with more of
flexible dieting is what working against gravity is. Flexible dieting is just the tracking of carbs, fats, and proteins, and that's just what flexible dieting is.
Okay.
And zone is like blocks. So zone would be, you would have like a fat block, but you wouldn't count like the protein and the carbs that are in that fat block.
Right.
So it's a different way of tracking your macros.
Yeah, I've actually followed the zone diet back in the day. And
does it work though? Like, how do you account for the spillover effect of the extra proteins and fats or whatever?
You account for it because they give you like significant, if you just count the calories in your blocks alone, it's significantly less calories than you would ever I worked with Matt Chan, who was a huge zone diet. Like he did the zone diet forever. And when he told me initially what blocks he was eating, it was like 1,200 calories worth of blocks. Like there's no way Matt Chan at 200 pounds, like absolutely shredded gains athlete, is eating 1,200 calories.
Yeah,
so the
right.
zone diet it puts you at a lower base and to account for the excess that you're going to eat in the macros that you don't track.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now. That makes sense. Okay. So how many calories do you think you probably would have been eating then?
I mean, he was probably like somewhere around 2,500 calories a day, if not over 3,000 calories. When he was working with me, I mean, I could look it up, but he was between 3,000 and 3,300 calories.
Yeah, which is something you'd need to maintain at that sort of fitness level.
And he's a big dude.
He's a big boy as well, yeah.
But otherwise, you just start losing weight.
Yeah, that's right.
Muscle atrophy, and it wouldn't be a good time.
Well, what about paleo? So paleo obviously was the biggest buzzword on the planet. If you're a CrossFitter and even into the fitness industry, it spilled over into AFL football in Australia, and everybody around the world knows what paleo means. And now there's a lot of people that take the piss right out of paleo. There's a lot of people that still swear by it. What do you think of paleo as, on one hand, for the general populace who want to be fit and healthy, and then what do you feel about paleo on the other hand for an athlete I'm sure that
Training for the games.
Yeah, training for something in particular.
I think that people have this like misunderstanding of what they like. People like to take something and then take it all the way to the extreme. So I am like not an extreme person in any way. So I believe in all kinds of diets. I believe in finding whatever it is that works for you. I think the best program in the world is the program that you're actually going to abide by. So it doesn't really matter. Like the optimal program for you is the one that you're actually going to follow. And if paleo works for you, then that's great. But a lot of people take paleo to the extreme where they'll like only eat bacon because it's paleo, or they'll eat paleo baked goods because it's paleo. Or they'll say like I'm 80% paleo and 20% not. But like paleo is kind of like 100% kind of thing. Like you're either paleo or you're not. So there is no like 80% paleo, 20% not. If 20% of the time you're not paleo, then you're not paleo.
You're just eating food.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I think that people are just like to believe in something and be part of a community. And I love that. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think the principles behind the Paleolithic diet are wonderful. I think that for the average population to try and eat foods that fall within that category, you know, lean meats, nuts, seeds, vegetables. It does say like limited fruits, no processed foods. I mean, I think the principles are beautiful. I think that for some people that might not be sustainable long term, where it might make them not be able to participate in certain aspects of life that just happen, like birthday parties, like there's going to be a cake there, or alcoholic beverages, or it doesn't necessarily give the education of how to moderate yourself when those things do come into your life.
For sure. And I'm the same. If I'm at a birthday party and I can't eat the cake, I'm not at the birthday party.
I'm not at the birthday party either. No.
Yeah. I don't get respectfully decline. I'm paleo right now, so I won't be there.
Is the birthday cake going to be some starch, a little sugar? Is it going to be a meat cake?
What about for an athlete, though? What about for say, a CrossFit Games athlete with paleo? Because there was a lot of Games athletes early on. Chad McKay's a famous one who, from Australia, really, really big guy, huge guy. I think he was the biggest CrossFit Games athlete when he was at the Games for the years he was there. And he still swears by strict paleo, but he seems to be the only one. I don't think, for me, it doesn't seem like you're getting enough carbs in, really, basically. Or if you are, then you're eating a wheelbarrow full of broccoli and leafy greens every day. How hard is it to actually have a paleo diet and be a high-level athlete, do you think?
I think like if you're still getting in your carbs, which for a really large male would probably be difficult, just because, I mean, you'd be full like all the time. You'd be eating so much fruit and so much vegetables. And if you could get more carrots are more dense in carbs, radishes, there are certain things, but you can't have, unless, if you think sweet potatoes are kind of like the controversial one. Like they are paleo to some people and then they aren't paleo to other people. So if you could have sweet potatoes, you could make it work as long as you're getting enough carbohydrates to fuel your training. I think paleo could work. I think it could work. Yeah. You just need enough carbohydrates to fuel your training. And then also there is the fact of, okay, there might be that one Games athlete that's having 50 grams of carbs or under and still being able to perform. But I urge people not to relate to the 1 in 100. You're probably part of the 95%. Statistically, you're probably in the majority. You're probably not the exception to the rule. Like everyone wants to be the exception to the rule, but you're probably not.
Yeah.
Just based on statistics. Like it's probably unlikely that you're the person. It's in weightlifting, the analogy that was given to me was 5% of elite level weightlifters wear a weightlifting belt in snatch. So, but 95% aren't wearing a weightlifting belt in snatch. So you're probably part of the 95% that shouldn't be doing that. Or the other way around, 5% of people don't wear a belt during clean and jerk. You probably should be wearing a belt during clean and jerk because you are likely part of the 95%.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. That's my stance.
No, that's good. So what about, so I've been talking about it with my girlfriend for a while now, and we just haven't bit the bullet. Wanted to try out ketogenic diet. So I'm a big, I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast every single day nearly. Fighter and the Kid, two of my favorite podcasts. Both Joe Rogan, Brennan Schaub, the hosts of those shows, both ketogenic diet. Obviously, I've looked into it in a multitude of different ways. And I find lots of good... I find lots of people with had a really good experience with it. So what was your experience? Because it seems to me, and like I said, I haven't tried it, but it seems to me like it seems very good for weight loss. How did you feel day to day? People use it for mental acuity, like Tim Ferriss is a big proponent of it. Yeah, what was your experience with going keto like?
So my experience was the transition period into going into ketosis was difficult. It actually I was in school at the time, so it made learning and sitting in class difficult for me. But that was just in the transition period of switching to using fatty acids for energy versus carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. And I felt fine once I got there. Just the food options are much more limited, and it just didn't suit my lifestyle. Yeah. I will always say I believe in whatever really works for your lifestyle. There's going to be research and believers in every kind of diet, and there's going to be people that are researchers and people that will contend against every single diet. You can find a study that says this about carbs, and then you can find a study that says the opposite. So I think that it would be something that you could experiment on yourself, and being a lab rat for yourself is kind of fun sometimes, and just to try it out. For me, it wasn't sustainable long term. I enjoy going out to restaurants with my friends and having a burger with no bun and only tomatoes and a salad on the side all the time is not. It's just not. No. Fun. It's not for some people. That might be though. I recently met Tom Bilyeu, who's the founder of Quest Nutrition, and he does that. We actually ate with him, and he was eating a burger with no bun and a side salad, some vegetables, and he does that. He even when he's traveling, he's totally ketogenic, and he doesn't necessarily train an athlete, but he loves it, and it really works for his lifestyle. And for me, it's all dependent on what your priorities are. And I prioritize sometimes a cookie, Yeah.
Yep. You've got your priorities in line there, Adee,
and some chips, yeah.
Tim Ferriss famously carries sardines. He packs his bags when he's traveling long distance, long journeys away from home, and he packs his bags with tons and tons of sardines.
Yeah.
And
they're loaded. Yeah, loaded with lots of vitamins and minerals. It's really good for athletes as well. I used to have them before I would compete. Sardines and red beets.
Hey gang, just a quick word from our sponsors here. We are sponsored today by True Pride. So True Pride are a wealth creation service who work with ambitious individuals and families looking to take control, worry less, and get ahead. If you're looking for a way to take control, worry less, and get ahead when it comes to your money, True Pride is that wealth coaching business that really, really, truly will help you. For me personally, it's saved up to $78 now per week just by budgeting and going through it with the guys there. They link you up with a software called CashFit, and it really is fantastic. Have you been going all right with this?
Yeah, I'm not as far into it as you are though, because we're waiting on some finance for me, which is going to be we're going to be able to look at things a lot differently. Yeah. But so you're at $78 of savings per week.
About $78.
And you're only just started, so you're still working on. The aim is to get to $150 per week or something, right?
Well, I want to get about $200.
Yeah,
because I definitely can.
So if you guys don't mind having more money in the old bank account, let alone up the old hummus, then make sure you head to www.truepride.com/truepride.com.au/ADVF. Check out what these guys do. Schedule a call, take our word for it, have a chat with the guys. If you want to join up, you'll get the $297 joining fee waived because you are listeners of Adventure Fit Radio,
which is the best podcast in the world. We are also sponsored to you by Carve, and we're also sponsored by ourselves. We're sponsored to you. We're brought to you and sponsored by Carve, which is a company that specializes in anything digital, from building apps, designing a logo, automating your business down to setting up your next event. Carve is the partner to be when you want to have more time to focus on the things you love and scale your business. Now,
What do you use Carve for, Tommy?
Carve, actually, I use it a little bit. I use it here and there.
Yeah.
It's mostly for the radio.
Yeah.
Look at you with that face on.
What?
Just give me this like, you dickhead.
No, go on.
Well,
talk about it.
I speak to our mate Alf,
Albino,
Albino, who is listening right now, and he helps us out with a lot of the stuff. So editing the shows, all that sort of thing. I've just gone completely blank here.
You're really good at this.
Just suck at it.
And what do we pay for the services at Carve, mate?
Probably about $6 an hour.
That's US dollars, of course.
US dollars, yeah. That's actually
stuff.
Vietnamese dong. No. Sorry.
You're a fucking idiot.
It is $6 US. So it costs nothing for us. They make a really good living over there, guys, and it's helped us out a shitload in getting the show out to you and help us with all things Adventure Fit Radio and Adventure Fit Travel. So head to Carve, www.carve.ph/ADVF to get 10 hours free on any project. We are finally also sponsored to you by Adventure Fit Travel, which we will talk to you about at the end of the show. Thanks, Bill. And here's the show.
Yeah, so I was doing the same thing when I was in the US earlier in the year. I was carrying around sardines because, they were good and they were a good start to the day, good snack that you could have in between.
Do they taste good?
They taste all right, but what I will say, if you try and eat sardines every day or even twice a day, it becomes the grossest thing.
Yeah.
Your insides. Remember how I was talking about you having slimy insides the other day because you can't. What were we talking about? We're talking about keto.
Yeah, that's right.
About how you can't eat nuts. You just have to eat avocados and oils.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt. I couldn't eat the amount of sardines that Tim Ferriss talks about eating, but they are pretty tasty. What did your when you were ketogenic? What did a breakfast, lunch, and dinner look like, Adee, for you?
It would be like whole eggs with avocados and some spinach.
Mm-hmm.
And then some type of meat, like taco salad, which is still like one of my favorite dishes. So I would have some vegetables, like usually cucumbers, tomatoes, with some type, either ground turkey or some type of ground meat, and with some salsa and more avocado. I love avocado. Like I can eat avocado with a spoon.
Ooh, yeah.
I do eat avocado with a spoon.
I ate it with my mouth.
After that, I would eat, I really enjoy fish. So I would cook myself some type of white fish with a side of, again, some type of vegetable of some sort.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's the only
and
problem I have with...
lots of olive oil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the only problem I have with ketogenic diet is it looks difficult to maintain because of the lack of food and you've got no novelty in there. You've just got avocados every day and nuts and oils. But I'm keen to give it a go. So say someone came to you, Adee, so you just work with what people want. With what people are currently working with in way of their diet, and you try and make it work better for them. But say somebody comes to you and they eat burgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Their diet needs to be fully taken and thrown out and start fresh. Hey, I want to start with you. I know it probably has to be gradual changes and so forth. But what do you actually go to? What would you call it? Would you call it a paleo-ish zone block ketogenic? What would you call it?
I mean, we don't tell you what food to eat. Like, we're not going to make your food choices for you. I truly believe that in order for any type of diet to be sustainable, you need to be empowered to be able to make those decisions for yourself. If I tell you to eat steak and broccoli, but you really want to have chicken and mashed potatoes, you're immediately less likely to comply.
Definitely.
So we don't you can eat paleo and still track your macros. You can... I mean, if someone was coming and wanted to do ketosis, I would probably recommend them to go to somebody who's more of an expertise in that, because we don't have an expertise in that. And we work primarily more with people who are exercising high intensity and prioritize working out. So we don't necessarily work with people in ketosis, but we have had certain cases where people just aren't losing weight eating carbohydrates, whether that's forcing them to underreport or that is just not working for their body. So we will increase fats and lower carbs, but I would probably recommend somebody who wanted to do ketosis to find somebody who is marketing themselves as being an expert in that category. Yeah. But in terms of like paleo or zone is like a method of tracking as well. So we wouldn't be zone, but I mean, I think we just like eat real food.
Cool.
So,
well, that's the best way.
Yeah. Adee, hey, I've got it's kind of like a personal question as well, but a lot of the members at the gyms I've worked at and all this sort of stuff seem to have the same issue. I'm more than happy to eat the healthiest stuff in the world. Like, I don't really mind. Eating for me tends to just become a means to an end. What I really struggle with is the organisation that goes into it, because I'm always on the run with doing the podcast and coaching, and I'm back and forth from home. I find myself not having a lot of time or not putting a lot of time towards prepping my meals, and or I just struggle with that side. But and then from obviously what happens then is that I'm just find myself, going past 7-Eleven or whatever and just finding whatever I can that has some form of nutrition in it. Do you get a lot of clients that come to you with that sort of issue, and how do you help them in that way?
Definitely. That is everyone's issue. I mean, everyone believes that they don't have enough time, that everyone's really busy. You fill up the time that you have. It's just like, that's the way things work. And so that is like, we are experts at behavior change. So that would definitely be something that we work with our clients with. For something like not having enough time, I would challenge you to change your mindset. Instead of saying, I don't have enough time, you are the keeper of time. So you can change that mindset to, I make time. Ooh. So like, forget about the clock at all. Like so an example someone gave to me, it's actually in a book called The Big Leap. And the example was, if you're working on the computer and you have a daughter, and your daughter comes up to you and you're like focused on your work, and she's like, oh, daddy, like, come play with me. And you're like, no, honey, like, I don't have time to play with you right now. And then all of a sudden she breaks her arm. Like, all of a sudden now you have time. Like, you now have time to take her to the emergency room to get a cast on her arm. Instead of saying, I don't have time, even just changing the language that you say out loud to saying, honey, like, I can't play with you right now because I'm doing work, but I'm going to make time to play with you later. That is going to immediately change your perspective on this like scarcity that everyone has. Like, this time is scarce and it's going to run out and we don't have enough. So just like that mindset shift, and even changing your actual language is extremely powerful. Like, saying those kinds of things out loud and catching yourself using those words. They have an effect on your body, whether you're conscious of it or not. Saying things out loud like, oh my God, this workout is going to be really hard, is going to change your reaction to the workout, regardless of whether you think it is or not. It just will.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think the next time my little daughter comes up to me and says that, I've got to stop saying that, you're an accident and you're adopted, and maybe I should say that she's, yeah, I don't know who you are. I don't remember who your mum is. I'm sorry. I'm going to make time. What are you actually doing here? Yeah, I'm going to make time for you and find out who the hell you are. So, no, that's actually a really good point.
But a tip that I would have for you, some of the tips that we would give for people in that situation, people, whenever they hear the word meal prep, they all of a sudden think of like, a million Tupperwares and like portioning out your meals for the rest of the week. But meal prep is really anything that's going to save you any amount of time. Like 5 minutes of time is still going to be meal prep. I would prepare your house to suit your goals. So little things like, if you have like a family size bag of M&Ms in your house, instead of taking food directly out of that bag, to pre-portion it out into serving sizes, into like little Ziploc bags, so you can just grab one serving at a time, and you would already know like the macros that's in it. Something like that like might take 5 minutes, but it's going to save you a lot of time. For being on the run all the time, choose the 3 places that you spend the most time. So whether it's the gym, your office, school, whatever it is, and pick jail.
Tommy, your last gag was funny, mate. Just calm down. Sorry, Adee. Continue.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I would pick the places that you spend the most time, and then to pick an option that's convenient or that's near you. It doesn't even have to be convenient, just an option, a restaurant or a grocery store or something near you, and prepare what food option you could have there. So for something like, I would go to a restaurant that's near the office, and then I would order a meal there. I know I've encouraged clients to go there, take it to go. If you like weigh it out or track whatever macros are in it once, you now know what, like, it might not be the most precise thing in the entire world, but you can just order the same meal there and you already know what the macros are. So you know that that's an option at the place that you're going to be spending the most time. So there's always an option for you everywhere you go. And that might take like, an hour of Googling or looking for the nutrition information online or, going to that restaurant and ordering the meal. But then for the rest of the time, that option exists.
That's a great tip.
That is a really good tip.
That's something that I've never thought about before. And like you say, it's an investment of your own time to set it up, but then it's done. So you could even get, like, a lot of the places will have they'll have macros, or you could look up macros of some of their meals, I'm sure, and then you could have, all right, there's the 5 things that I can eat for lunch around my work, and then those, and if you're not changing jobs every 6 months, then you only have to do it once.
It's easy.
That's a really good tip. You spoke about emotion. You alluded to kind of the emotional and changing habits side of it, Adee. So you deal with a lot of this stuff yourself. Your coaches, have you done any mindset training yourself, or is it just something you've learned on the fly, or do you ever refer people out to talk to other professionals in that realm? How do you deal with the fact that a lot of this eating and the overeating problems that people have is because it's kind of emotionally attached?
Yeah, it is. That is something we realized like really quick, like right when you started, especially since it's all remote. So there's like this anonymity that comes with emailing somebody. You don't like see their reaction. You can be more open and free, and it's very judgment free. We are a very safe place. We are very positive community. So people will definitely open up more than you expect them to. And we realized that really early. And I come from an experience of it was an emotional way of me associating food to cope with all of my insecurities or the shame that I was feeling. So if we do hear some things in our emails or from our clients that are beyond our scope of work, whether that's some like purging or those kinds of things, that is definitely beyond what we are educated in and can help people with. So we will refer them out from there. But we do have a weekly mindfulness practice that goes out to everybody on the program. And that is, it's different every single week. And it ranges from learning how to find balance in your life, how to reevaluate your priorities, how to conserve your energy, some meditation practices. I meditate every single morning, the first thing I do every day when I wake up. And that's something, mindfulness and self-awareness has been something that I've been personally working on really since I met Michael. So a year and a half ago, it's like a daily goal of mine is to establish some new learning about myself.
That's interesting. I also myself and Tommy, I probably upped my meditative practices when I started this podcast with Tommy because he's been meditating ritually for 18 months now. I genuinely, you mentioned this going off topic a little bit more, talking about you, if you don't mind me asking. So I've dealt with a lot of the same things anxiety-wise, and that's why I meditate. I also gratitude journal. Me and Tommy have the same morning routine, basically, I think. We have a cold shower, or I have warm and then goes to cold. Then we gratitude journal very briefly. Then we meditate. We don't do this together, by the way.
Yeah.
But,
I was going to ask.
Yeah. We roll out of bed together and then... But Tommy also journals daily as well on a number of things. But what do you do? Obviously, it's, for me, anxieties can be a crippling. It can be a crippling thing to deal with. Sometimes it's manageable and it's those extra thoughts in your head and that are just unnecessary. But sometimes it can be, as I'm sure you know, I'm not sure what degree.
Worse, and it can hit you in places where you can't afford to have it.
Yeah, that's right. What do you do outside of? Or what does your meditation look like? And do you have any other practices? Like, how do you stay on top of all that side of things, Adee?
I totally agree with you. Anxiety can be crippling. It can present you in certain scenarios where you start behaving in a way that doesn't align with who you believe yourself to be. And it's like almost like you can't control yourself. Like it's just, you just end up going down this hole and you can't stop yourself. And I've experienced that before many times. And my meditation practice is I wake up every single morning, I put my headphones in and I sit cross-legged with my palms facing to the ceiling, and I use the app called Headspace.
Yep. And
when I started, I actually hated it. Like I was sitting there, sometimes I would be, my mind would be so loud that I even forgot that he was talking. And then all of a sudden I would like remember that he was talking to me. Oh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm terrible at this. Like 100%. I don't even remember what he's trying to ask me to do. Like what even, but then Michael, who's been through rehab and he's been meditating for years and years, like probably like 10 years now. Wow. And he encouraged me that it's just the practice of practicing that is the whole point, and the skill is to just bring the attention back to the breath and back to the body, and that it's one of those things that you don't realize the benefits right away, and that eventually you start subtly realizing different aspects of your life that become more calm. You notice emotions sooner and can take more time before acting upon them. I do other things, like many other things. I draw very high detailed drawings. So really? It quiets my mind because I have to focus really, they're like very detailed. So I have to like really focus on them. And other things that I do, I have a life, I guess you would call her a life coach. She's actually a love coach, and she works with Michael and I once a week. I do not I'm lucky that I have someone like him in my life that is not fearful of me saying those like really uncomfortable things out loud that I'm thinking, and can like put me in check, and have somebody who's like, okay, that's like a story that you're creating in your head. Like that's not actually true. Like those thoughts that you're thinking is just a story. That's right. I read a lot of books. There's a book, if you've never read, called The Untethered Soul.
Ooh, no,
and it is all about this. It's like life-changing for sure. And it talks about how that voice in your head isn't actually you. Yeah. And it's just this thing that you've created, and it gives you terrible advice all the time. And it's just this voice that keeps talking, and it's just, it's constant. It's constant chatter. You can be in the car and it's like, oh, that tree's green, or oh, like it's just constantly going, but that's not you. Like you're not that voice in your head. You're creating that voice in your head.
So strange, isn't it? We literally do create a little character that we listen to, and we think we need to let him or her control our lives. But really, once you become mindful and you become present, then you realize that that's got nothing to do with your life. And you can hear that person talking like, oh, that person's chattering away again while I'm trying to live my life. It's such a strange...
It's actually strange because sometimes that voice will instruct you to do something that's like totally messed up. Like they'll give you like the worst advice ever. And like maybe you'll ruin a friendship or you'll ruin a relationship. And then 10 minutes later, you'll listen to the voice again. Yeah. Even though like it just totally screwed things up based on this. And we all, nobody like makes you feel an emotion like anger or like nobody makes you feel. It's just something happens. And then that voice in your head creates this thought that might be true, or it might be totally not true. And it's like this movie that you've invented. And if you said it out loud to that person, they would be like, oh my God, like I can't even believe that's what you're thinking from what I just did. Because it's like not even true.
Yeah.
And we just invent it.
I could literally talk about this stuff for days and days. My dad and I have actually decided to write a book together on this stuff, because we both went through a similar stuff, similar things around the same age. Obviously, my dad and I are not the same age, but
that'd be strange.
That'd be very strange. But I actually, one of the first things I did when I was going through the anxiety that I had, and then when I started to come out of it, I actually drew the little guy in the voice in my head, and I actually called him Zach.
Why Zach?
I don't know. Just called him Zach. And he's a little bald-headed fella. and this actually sounds like a mate of ours, but it's not at all. It's actually not at all.
Shout out to Zach Gregorovich, one of the listeners of the
that's
show.
Right. Yeah, that's right. It's actually not him at all.
Yeah, he's not my friend.
Yeah, that's right. No, he's a mate, but this little bloke isn't. He's a little bald-headed fella that wears really sort of weird, clumpy shoes, and he always tells me weird advice, and it's just a way that I sort of make myself disassociate myself from my thoughts, because like you said, Adee, we're not our thoughts. It's just we get these thoughts in response to emotions that we feel and that sort of stuff. But a really weird thought that came into my mind yesterday, I was walking past a park, and there was a little kid on a swing there, and the way I see it is Zach told me, and he just asked me, what if I just picked that kid up and just belted him over a fence? Like, just a bizarre thought.
What do you mean belted
As in,
him
like,
over
if I just kicked him over a fence and saw how far I could kick him. Like, just a bizarre thought.
And I know you pretty well. I don't think that's in your actual personality. I don't think I'll ever see you pick a little child up and boot it.
And boot it over a fence.
That is
And I was sort of thinking to myself, geez, you're a weirdo. But it's amazing. Like, and I think what you were saying before, Adee, about how meditation can help you, just look at thoughts as just passing clouds in the sky, as opposed to seeing the thoughts as who you actually are. The more you can do that, the more productive you'll be.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like the hardest thing to do, but it's so simple when you say it out loud.
Yep.
It's just it's a practice. It's like a skill, like anything else.
Well, it's funny that you said as well that you had a lot of trouble getting into it at the start, and you didn't really know if it was helping at all. What a lot of people come to me, and I'm not some guru or anything, because I still struggle as well, but meditating's had a profound impact on my life. And they always come up to me and they sort of say, this is just mates. How do you get into meditation, and what do you do? Because I find that when I start doing it, I'm always just sitting around, and I'm always just, it's not happening for me. How would you explain to someone that idea of persistence and what you should actually look for when you are meditating?
For me, the thing that kept me going was I'm a believer in social proof when it comes to anything. Like, if it's working for a lot of people, like it can't, or if there's like so much research out there that proves that it's beneficial for you. There is so many really educated people. I'm very fortunate that I have the opportunity to meet some of the most successful people on the planet, like anyone from like the CEO of Whole Foods or the CEO of Quest Nutrition or whoever it is. And all of them are meditating or all of them have some type of mindfulness practice. So that's kind of what kept me going. It's like, I can't be like the one person that it doesn't work for.
Yep.
And I understood from the things I've read that it's not like, it's not like exercising where you feel like this tangible progress, like you feel like you're lifting more weight or you feel like your muscles are sore. It's so different. Like you're not going to feel that. And then once I started I have a very stressful job. I have to I think that, I have to make payroll every month. I have to pay almost 20 people. So it's like very stressful. The job is ever changing. There's this pressure on me to make sure everyone's having a positive experience. And then once I started feeling like I wasn't on defense anymore, like things weren't happening to me, things were happening for me. And I wasn't always on the defense. Like I wasn't always waiting for things to just go wrong. And I just kind of felt this really subtle difference in my daily life.
Yep.
Then I was like, the only thing that could be is from my meditation practice. And worst case scenario, you sat there for 10 minutes and you got quiet time. That's the worst case.
That's right. 100%. I find when I sit down, because sometimes I have apps. I don't use Headspace. I use Buddhify, and I also use a brainwave app with theta and beta brainwaves. And sometimes it'll only be 5 minutes because I'm just in a rush and I've forgotten or whatever, because I can't get that every morning routine perfectly. I just haven't got it every day. But even sometimes when I sit down for 5 minutes and I feel like I've got a busy mind, I'm not getting into it. Damn, I wish I didn't have 5 minutes. Damn, I wish I didn't have 5 minutes. Oh, man, I'm not going to get anything out of this. And then finally I get 1 minute at the end of piece. Then that even benefits.
It's a win.
And like you say, it's such a small part of your day. even if you can get, because when I meditate, it's very rare that I'll sit down and I'll start meditating for, even if it's 10 minutes, I sit down and I'm not meditating, and for 9 minutes and 59 seconds, I'm clear of mind. Like, it takes me a little while to get into it, and then some days are better than others.
Yep.
But as long as you get that little bit of clarity and that little break, then your brain can. I think it's just about resting your brain, because I feel like I talked about this the other day. I feel like when I've got anxiety going on and too much going on in my head, I get dumber. And I heard someone else talk about this as well.
You get cloudy
because I literally I take so long to process things, and I'm not as smart. I'm nowhere near as smart as I would normally be. And it's because I think my brain is tired. It's literally tired from the amount of work it's doing, because it's just working that hard thinking about useless thoughts. So I think even when I get that 60 seconds on a bad day, a meditation, I've got too much going on. If I get 60 seconds of clarity, it actually helps.
Yeah.
It all just adds up.
Yep.
Definitely, for sure. I totally agree with everything you're saying.
And I was thinking about it before as well. You mentioned before, when you exercise, you start to see tangible results. You start to see the results, but with meditation, it's kind of like the opposite. You start to see less and less of what you're trying to get rid of, which is tough because you can't actually think about that actively. It's like, for me, I know that when I started to meditate more and more, there'd be less of those moments and more of those, shit, I actually haven't thought about that in 2 minutes or, half an hour or a month or a week. And it just would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the biggest time for me where I knew that it was working is that I went shopping once, and then I was walking up the driveway to put all my groceries into my fridge, and one of the bags broke from the bottom, and all the shit went all the way down the driveway. And my first passive reaction was laughter. I started laughing, and then by the time that I went down to the bottom to pick it up, I was like, why am I not stressed and annoyed about this? And then from that, I was picking up all the apples, then I ended up having a great conversation with a neighbour. So it's funny how little, if you just change your mindset, that it was actually a very positive experience.
And you wouldn't have had a nice catch up and chat with your neighbour had you dropped the groceries and gone, fuck.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, fucking hell. Like
exactly.
100%.
Because I wouldn't have been in that mind frame. I would have been like, I just want to get rid of this guy and go back up.
Yeah, that's right. And that people can see that. People can see the mindset that you're in. And I went and saw my business coach the other day after I'd had a really rough time over a period of a couple of weeks. And he said, I feel heavy to be around, and then obviously I got out of that frame of mind, but you can feel heavy or you can feel light, and you can have a smile on your face, and that'll actually extrapolate your happiness, because everyone around you will be more happy, and you'll have more smiles and more good positive interactions. And
I wonder if meditation is the key to the world peace. Maybe it is.
Where we didn't need to go that deep. But,
sorry, I got pretty deep there. That's quite far down.
I think in Headspace, Andy, the guy that talks in it, he talks a lot about how this practice is as much for other people as it is for you. Like, it is just as much for the relationships you have and for everyone in your life and for you. Like, it's not just to make you better; it's also for them.
Interesting way to look at it. Definitely. Yeah, that's for sure. So, Adee, let's get back on track. We'll probably wrap up soonish. We'll get to 6 from 6. Ask you some questions. But what's the plan for you next? Is there any look to maybe, is weightlifting done and dusted? Are you just trying to build with working against gravity and take that to take that and growing in new leaps, or what's next for you in your path?
For me, from a business perspective, we have at least the next 3 years already mapped out. We have, by the end of this year, we are moving the entire program onto an app/software, which is one of the most amazing things I've ever been a part of. It is fantastic, far beyond what I ever expected it to be. It just simplifies and cleans up the whole program, because it's now all through email and through Gmail. So it's just moving everything to a much simpler system. The members are going to freak out about it. It's just awesome. And then from there, we're just constantly evolving. Doing more of our training programs are going to get cleaner. We're adding more education. We are going to launch some type of affiliate model so that the affiliates, we have a waiting list of gyms that want to use the program as an affiliate. So we'll allow them to use the software, and we'll train one of their coaches to and support them through working with their clients and things like that. We have a lot going on in terms of working against gravity is growing, and it is so exciting to me. It's like a little puzzle. Like, I love it. I think it's really fun and exciting to do. In terms of working out, I started taking hip hop classes.
Ooh, nice.
Hip hop classes.
Yeah.
Classic.
It makes me uncomfortable and I'm really awkward. So I figured that was probably a good thing to do.
Nice.
That's
cool.
Can you like a little pop lock elbow robot?
I am so awkward. Like, it's so crazy how bad I am at dancing. Like, it's really bad.
Well, I mean, you've always been told to set your back and chest up, knees out, and they're telling you to just feel the move. So it doesn't work.
I've always wanted to go to a dance school and pay to learn the choreographed moves of the Napoleon Dynamite final scene dance.
Oh, yeah.
Just so, like,
oh my God.
just so you could just unleash that. The one time that song comes on a dance floor and you can just drop into Napoleon perfectly, and then you just go home and you can never do it again. But it'd be well worth it.
Are you ready to get your groove on? Yes.
What do you want to do today, Napoleon? Sorry. That's great. So big things for working against gravity. So,
sure.
Hey, Adee, I want to ask one final question from me, and that's what's been your greatest achievement so far in helping people with working against gravity?
Oh, that is like a huge question. There is definitely no greatest one. The first thing that would come to mind is the community is amazing. We're definitely changing people's lives. The greatest thing, I think, is I've challenged a number of people to push outside their comfort zone and conquer fear. And the staff that I have, I've provided for them an opportunity to live a lifestyle that I think most people would dream of, and that's working remote. A number of them are working right now from a beach in Mexico, and they don't have parameters they build their own schedule. They work with as many people as they want, as little people as they want. They have freedom to work whenever they want, how long they want, and providing almost 20 people now that kind of a lifestyle, and leaving the corporate 9-to-5 job feels very, very good every day. I love that.
Cool. Sounds awesome. Okay, so we've got 6 questions to finish off. The first 3 are from myself. My first question is, what's your favorite travel destination you have been to on the planet? Can be anywhere, big, small, country, continent, town.
Utah in America. I love Utah.
Cool. Why so?
It is so grand and beautiful with all the red rocks. There's a wonderful community there. It's got lots of mountains, and you can float down the river. You can go rock climbing. You can go into the slot canyons. It has desert. It has snow. It has everything. It's just very, very, very beautiful.
Awesome. Sounds good. So next question, similar, but what's your dream destination, place that you haven't been?
My dream destination place that I haven't been would probably be Greece.
Oh, yeah.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I don't know why I got so excited about that.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So whereabouts? Greek islands? Or you want to see the Pantheon and Acropolis? And
I think all the Greek islands for sure. Probably, I think I'm like a little too old to do like the whole EOS and like party scene, but I would love to see all of it.
What do you mean? I'm pretty sure 21-year-olds still go there.
I actually named a bar. I have a drink that I named at a bar called the Fun Pub in EOS.
Fun
So
Pub.
if you ever do make it to EOS, go to the Fun Pub and ask for the Peninsula Swill, which is a drink that I named that is now on the cocktail menu, and you can thank me later.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that like when you go and try to get some drugs? You always ask for the Spanish bloke and the smokers.
What?
I don't even know.
True story. It's a Madurian milk. But
Really?
anyway.
So why is it called the Fun Pub? What's that Greek for?
Adee, final question. Sorry, we're losing our marbles over here in Melbourne. But final question is, do you have any books that you recommend to people? It can be a fun read that you might read before bed, or it can be a business book or philosophy book. Anything in particular?
I usually recommend the same book, but I'm going to do something different this time. I would say everyone should read a book called The Perfect Day Formula by a guy named Craig Ballantyne.
Cool.
It is like just over 100 pages, and it gives you a solid framework for how to create a routine, how to create certain rules for yourself, and become more disciplined, which will in turn give you more freedom. And it's like very simple, very easy to read, and it's common sense, but the way that he says it makes you be like, oh, like I should definitely do that. It's like a game changer.
All right. And what was the one that you normally would recommend?
It's called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown.
Daring Greatly. I got recommended that the other day. That's on my Audible wish list because a friend of mine might have been a listener. I'm not a... Yeah, it was a listener. It was an Adventure Radio listener. Yeah, They recommended that book as well. So, cool. Definitely want to check out. Tommy, what do you got?
So, Adee, what do you like to do in your downtime or spare time?
In my spare time, I like to draw. I like to watch. It depends if Michael's around or not. If he's not around, I will watch like the trashiest of trashy TV. Like TV that he would never watch with me, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians or something like that.
Adee, come on. Kill me.
I mean,
Inside Job, Kim's robbery, Inside Job, Adee.
You can get some good insight from them, you know? Like sometimes there's a gem that comes in there and it's just turns your mind off for a while. I love trash TV once in a while.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it. And I like going to the movies.
Oh yeah.
Like
have you seen
theater.
Have you seen do you like sort of like thriller horror movies?
Like everything.
Okay.
All sorts of movies.
You've got to see Don't Breathe. I recently went and saw Don't Breathe. And it's really good. Really, really good. That's all I'll say.
And that's in theaters right now?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Theaters in America too, or just Australia?
Well, it's I'm assuming it would be in...
Yeah, it would be. We normally have the same movies for the same stretch of time.
Yeah,
Roughly
Roughly
much
the
as
same time.
America, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not just a classic.
We just got The Godfather just came out. It's a huge hit. I think it's playing.
And Lassie Come Home just came out as well. That's a new one.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I just looked it up and it has a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb rating, and that's really, really good.
Don't
like
breathe.
a very good rating.
Yeah. It's really, really good. And it's pretty scary. I'm not going to lie. Second one. Now I've completely lost my train of thought here. Don't breathe. What am I thinking about? Oh, yes. Did you have a role model growing up or someone who inspired you?
There's like no one person in particular that like, I mean, my parents, my mother and my father are like incredible individuals who they immigrated to Canada from Israel, and they would like treat themselves once a week to like rotisserie chicken at like a $20 meal. And that was the only time they would see each other because they worked like opposing schedules for a really long time. And now they travel all over the world. They just came back from the sand dunes in Morocco, and they're going to, I forget where it's like some crazy like tropical place. They're going to Australia and New Zealand in March. Yeah.
Nice.
And Bora Bora.
Oh,
that's where
beautiful.
they're going.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And they're just the coolest people ever.
Yeah. A lot of people say their parents as well. I think you're around them so much. Obviously, you're going to look up to them both physically and in the context that I'm asking as well. Finally, my question is, if you could invite 3 people dead or alive to dinner, who would they be and why?
I would invite Steve Jobs.
Nice one.
I would invite Tim Ferriss.
Oh, yeah.
And for comedic relief, I would invite maybe like Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, yeah, very nice.
Cool.
That's good. Yeah.
Or like Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen DeGeneres would be good. My biggest goal in life is to get onto the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Really?
Yeah, I'd love to get on that show. It'd be so cool.
That's
you
a great
are
goal.
a strange individual, Tommy.
Well, what's your biggest goal in life? What's your biggest goal?
My biggest goal in life, I haven't chosen one, but it wouldn't be getting on Ellen DeGeneres show. I'll give you the tip. Nothing against Ellen. I like her too. I think she's cool, but
Second biggest goal.
Well, if I don't have a bigger skull, you think I've got a second biggest skull? You idiot.
That's great, Adee. Well, how can people find you then? Anything you want to plug, social medias, all that sort of stuff?
If you want more of tips and tricks and lifestyle habits and behavior changes for nutrition, sign up for our newsletter at workingagainstgravity.com. You can find me at Adee Cazayoux on all of the social media. So that would be AdeeCazayoux. And we are at Working Against Gravity on all of the social medias as well. That's
awesome.
pretty much it.
Loved it. Alrighty. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show, Adee.
Thanks, Adee.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. You guys are hilarious. That was like one of the more fun podcasts I've ever been on.
No.
Awesome.
No. It's the best and the most fun podcast that you've been on. I think you minced the words a little bit there, but
it could have
we
been
understand what you were saying.
We know what you mean. I mean, there's a language barrier, but I know what you meant. Best and most attractive guys in the world. Oh, now I understand exactly.
All right, Adee. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the wrap.
Alrighty, that was the show. Bill, how'd you like it?
Yeah, it was good. I had a great chat with Adee there. What? Are we doing Adee here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Or are we doing someone else? Have I forgotten?
Oh, you said with Adee.
Yeah.
I thought you said with the D.
Oh, the D. Oh, yeah. I just had a great session in the back room with the D. It's my little nickname for my hamaka.
With my hamana manua. With my mutts.
I refer to it in the third person.
Yeah, that's right.
And just I call it the big D.
I thought it was called Stephen.
That's my mate's dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my mate Paul's dick. He named Stephen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. How is Paul?
Good.
How is Stephen?
Not so good.
Yeah, I've heard.
He's had a rough few weeks.
He's had a rough few days.
Up the muts.
The muts, Anna.
The muts alanakaks.
The malakun. That's just going out of hand.
We are. If you liked that show, guys, subscribe on iTunes, please, and that'll help us get money and fame and stardom, and hopefully bitches, and a bank account.
Will come a rolling.
Yeah.
With the homies.
Yeah. So we want a big crib with lots of players.
Yep.
So if you could players.
I want guns and hose.
Yeah, bitches and the Cristal.
Yes.
That's what we want at Adventure Fit Radio.
Yep.
So if you could support us in getting our bitches and Cristal
and that wagon to roll up into the crib with the Lambo, essentially, is what I'm kind of referring to.
Yeah. So in order to help us in our journey, then subscribe.
Please
subscribe. If you needed anything from the show as resources-wise, which I'm sure you would because there was heaps of knowledge bombs in there from Adee, then make sure you go to www.adventurefittravel.com/podcast. All the show notes will be in there. And then also don't forget to check out our sponsors, True Pride. Head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF. Book a call, see what they're all about. If you want to save some money, make some investments, and you'll get a $297 joining fee waived.
Yep.
Also, Carve, check out www.carve.ph/ADVF for all your virtual assistant needs. Upscale your business.
10 hours.
Get your life back. Free 10 hours there. And check out Adventure Fit Travel, www.adventurefittravel.com. All the good stuff that we got going on there. Check out Mexico with Carl Paoli, Jared Fleming. Check out Bali with Carl Paoli. Check out all the good shit we got going on. You want a holiday, come to us. You will not regret it.
Sounds good to me.
See you next week.
Boy.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.